Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. This is Indumati here. Today is 2nd April 2023 and these are all the important articles from today's newspaper. Let us proceed to the first article. So this article talks about Bandipur Tiger Reserve, and this particular tiger reserve completes 50 years as a project tiger reserve, and it has a legacy associated with the Maharajas of Mysore. So as we know, if we see in the map, Bandipur is in the state of Karnataka. You can locate here. It is now in the state of Karnataka. Previously, it was in the state of Mysore in the pre-independence era. At that point in time, this particular tiger reserve was called as Venugopal Wildlife Park because it is named after the god whose temple is situated in a hillock inside this particular wildlife park. So, this Bandipur Tiger Reserve, when it was designated as a tiger reserve, there were only 12 tigers that were there in the reserve. But today there are 126 tigers in this reserve and 173 tigers use this particular reserve. And this statistic comes from Status of Tigers, Co-Predators and Prey in India report by the NTCA, that is the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So, in 1972, the Wildlife Conservation Act was passed, and in 1973, Project Tiger was launched. But even before that, the Maharajas of Mysore, though hunting and game gathering was a prominent hobby at that time, they also designated certain areas for conservation, and the remnants of which were available in the post-independence era for us to designate them as tiger reserves. Alright, so now we will see some background information about this article which are important for our prelims examination. So, what is this National Tiger Conservation Authority? It is a statutory body. It is a statutory body, that means established under a law. Which law is that? It is the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, and this body comes under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Though Project Tiger was launched in 1973, this particular body came into existence only in 2005. And who is the chairperson? The Minister for Environment and Forest. He or she will be the chairperson of NTCA. And this is the apex body that administers Project Tiger. But one thing importantly you have to remember is this authority came after Project Tiger was established. Alright. So, we already saw that the minister will be the chairperson and the vice chairperson will be the Minister of State, and there are 3 members of Parliament, and Secretary of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, he will also be the member. That is the composition of NTCA. The next information is about Project Tiger. It is a centrally sponsored scheme, which means in most of the states it is 50-50. That is 50% of money comes from center and 50% of money comes from the state. This is the case in most states, but in certain states like hill states, this combination will be 90-10. But just understand that this particular project is a centrally sponsored scheme and it was launched from Jim Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand. So, why this project was launched? So, we all know during the pre-independence era, the British and the Maharajas were fond of hunting. So, this resulted in the dwindling of tiger population and the crunch of which was felt in the post-independent India. And hence, this project was launched to at least maintain the population of tigers and protect them from poaching. So, what are the objectives? So, it is to maintain the population. That means the survival of India's tiger population. And also, mainly tiger population was dwindling not only because of poaching, it was also because of shrinkage of habitat, which is the habitat loss. So it is not just about maintenance of numbers, it is also about the protection of habitat. Only then the tigers will be able to survive. We don't want to enclose the tigers in a certain area and call it a zoo. We want to protect its habitat as well. And the status of tiger in the IUCN list is endangered. This particular project doesn't restrict itself with the conservation of tigers alone. It also aims to safeguard the rights of tribals and local peoples because compared to 1973, 50 years have been completed from the launch of this project. It is very important for your prelims as well as mains. That is why we are going into the details of this particular project. Okay, about this Bandipur Tiger Reserve, sometimes in prelims what they do is they take up a national park and they also talk about the river that is passing through this particular national park. Such kinds of questions have been asked. So, the Nugu river, it runs through the Bandipur National Park and this particular national park is bordered by Kabini river. This Kabini river is a tributary of river Kaveri. So, it is flanked by Kabini river in the north and Moya river in the south. So, what type of forests are found? Dry deciduous forest, moist deciduous forest and shrublands. So, this is practically the Western Ghats, right? So, it has both dry deciduous as well as moist deciduous, and this Bandipur National Park is a part of the larger Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Okay, so this Kabini river which we already talked about, this Kabini reserve separates the Bandipur National Park and Nagarhole Tiger Reserve. This particular national park is surrounded by Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary. All these are a part of the larger Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. So, in this article, we learned about few things. One is Project Tiger. Second one is National Tiger Conservation Authority. Third one is about the Bandipur National Park. Okay. So, these are all the topics that we covered from this article. Alright, now we will move on to the next article. Before that, I will give you a prelims tidbit. So, this is a picture of a dance called as Thira. It's actually a dance drama and this is performed in the state of Kerala. Alright, so here they have a elaborate dressing. If you see, the facial dressing is very elaborate. And there is also another dance drama type of cultural practice called as Theyyam. This is also there in the state of Kerala only. So, the similar kind of makeup is followed in Theyyam also. But what is the difference between this Theyyam and the Thira? In Theyyam, the performer is considered to be God. But in Thira, this performer is considered to be possessed by God. Okay, so that is the difference between Theyyam and Thira. A similar offshoot was shown in the movie Kantara in terms of an art called as Bhutakola. So, because this was in talks in larger public consciousness, there might be a question on this Tira, Theyyam, etc. That is why I have put this. So, this is also a very important piece of information for prelims. Moving on to the next article. The next article is about the Konda Reddy tribals and they are facing a cultural trauma. So this shows the degree of tribal alienation. Tribal alienation. Why this has happened? Because these Konda Reddy tribals, they live in the banks of the river Godavari, and they live in the banks of the river. They also live in the hilly areas. So the hilly areas in which they live is called as Puppy Hill Range or the Bison Hill Range. So, an important aspect of this tribals is the Godavari river. So, this river is a very important part of their livelihood, very important part of their culture. Right from the birth till the death, this river is intricately linked to the culture of the Konda Reddy tribals. Alright, so any ritual, the river is an inherent part of that ritual. But what has happened is because of the Polavaram irrigation project, these tribals are going to be relocated and hence they are facing cultural trauma because if they are relocated, how will they perform their rituals associated with the river, right? And because of that, even wedding bells fall silent because obviously in weddings the river is an inherent part. If the river is not there, if they are relocated to someplace else, how will they fully follow their culture? That is the cultural trauma of these people. Now, going into prelims perspective, we have to see what is this Polavaram project. So, in last year and last to last year, there was Ken Betwa project that was in news. Similarly, this time this Polavaram project is in news. It is still under construction. So, it is in construction. It is there in Andhra Pradesh on the Godavari river. Okay, so it has gotten national project status from union government. An important fact which needs to be understood here is that it covers the Papikonda National Park. So that is very important. So this Ken Betwa project was associated with the Panna Tiger Reserve. Similarly, Polavaram project is associated with the Papikonda National Park and also the Konda Reddy tribals. About the Konda Reddy tribals, so they are found in the states of Andhra Pradesh as well as Telangana. So as we already saw, they live in the river banks and they also live in the hilly forest areas. Initially, they were shifting cultivators. What is shifting cultivator? They will clear a part of forest and undertake rudimentary form of agriculture, right? Rudimentary form of agriculture. So that is shifting cultivation. Now they have moved on to settled agriculture, horticulture also, but basically they are shifting cultivators and they are a part of PVTG, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Few days before there were the other tribals who were in news. If you had watched our program in ForumIAS YouTube channel, you would have known it was about the Great Nicobar Islands, So there was another PVTG that was in news associated with Great Nicobar Islands. Can you drop which tribal group is that in our comment section? Now, so they were also PVTG. This Kondareddy tribe, they are also PVTG. Alright, so this is from prelims perspective. Moving on to the next article, it is about India Malaysia moving beyond dollar to settle trade in rupee. So the bilateral trade between Malaysia and India, it will be settled in Indian rupee. Why this is happening? Why are we moving on to trading in Indian rupee? So if we are moving away from dollar, it is called as de-dollarization. De-dollarization. So, why this is happening is because after the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the West imposed sanctions on the Russian economy. So, if we have to import any Russian goods, be it weapons, be it oil, anything, it is becoming very difficult to pay Russia in US dollars. So that is why many nations are looking for trading in national currencies and de-dollarization. This is the reason why India is also looking for rupee based trade. Alright, so in this regard a step was taken and the RBI allowed the opening of special rupee Vostro accounts, that is the SRVA, and banks from 18 countries were allowed to open this special rupee Vostro account. So this Vostro account, what is it? We will see in the next slide. So what are the benefits of having a rupee based trade? Why? It can fetch better pricing for goods and services traded. So, if you are going to trade with Malaysia, rupee and ringgits. So, there is a direct trade and you can fetch better prices because it is a regional trade. You can price your goods in rupee and the exporters will have better price discovery mechanism. So, if there is a trade in rupee that is directly happening, there is a savings in currency conversion spread. Obviously, to convert a rupee into dollar, you have to shell out money. That money is now saved. Again, forex reserves are saved. We have dollar based forex reserve. If we have to import something and we have to pay in dollars, what happens? We will be using the dollars, right? We will be depleting our forex reserve. Instead, if we are doing a rupee based trade, the problem of depleting our dollar reserves would not be the case. And if more and more countries start trading in rupee, rupee also can become a reserve currency. Reserve currency is a globally used currency. Dollar is a reserve currency. Pound sterling is a reserve currency. Like that, rupee also will get a potential to become a reserve currency. Alright, now we will see what is a Vostro account. Sorry, this is supposed to be Vostro account. So, Vostro account is an account that domestic banks hold for foreign banks. It's for domestic banks. Domestic banks will hold an account for foreign bank in rupee. Say, we have this beautiful example here. There is a Indian firm which exports something to Russia. We are assuming that Russia is the other country. In this case, it applies for any country basically. So, this particular Indian firm is exporting goods worth rupees 100 to this Russian firm. Now, this Russian firm has to pay in rupees to this Indian company. How will they do that? So, they will go to their bank which is in Russia. This bank will have a Vostro account. Because it is held by a bank, it is called as a Vostro account. It is different from deposit accounts. Deposit accounts, are held by individuals. Okay, deposit accounts are held by individuals and Vostro accounts are held by institutions like banks. Okay, so now coming back to our example, how will this Russian firm pay rupees 100 to this Indian firm? So what they will do is they will give 100 rupees worth of rubles to the Russian bank, and this Russian bank will have an account with the Indian bank in the form of a Vostro account. Now what happens? The Russian firm is giving 100 rupee worth of ruble and they are asking the Russian bank to pay rupees 100 in rupees to the Indian bank. Now this Russian bank will pay rupees 100 in terms of rupees to this Indian bank into the Vostro account, and from there payment will be settled to a Indian firm. Similarly, we have another Indian firm. What happens? They are importing goods from Russia. Say for example, they are importing 150 rupees worth of goods from Russia. Now they have to pay the equivalent in rubles to the Russian company, right? So how will they pay? The Indian firm will deposit rupees 150 with the Indian bank, and this Indian bank will then transfer the 150 rupee worth of rubles to the Russian bank, and from there the Russian firm too will collect the rubles. So this happens in a circular manner, the essence of which is the settlement takes place through a partnership between a foreign bank and an Indian bank, wherein this foreign bank has a Vostro account in an Indian bank which is denominated in rupees. So this is very, very important. You might be asked about Vostro account in prelims. Alright, because this SRVA, Special Rupee Vostro account, has been in news like since last year. Last year's prelims this wasn't asked. So there is a very good chance that you will be asked this question in this year's prelims. Alright, next article is about hydrogen as a viable fuel. So these days there is hydrogen based economy. Hydrogen based economy that is being advocated by the government. Now hydrogen can be used as a fuel, right? For that we need to produce hydrogen, and hydrogen is produced by the electrolysis of water, which is this reaction. When electricity is passed through water, the constituent are split. So this is the equation. When electricity is passed through water, it splits to form hydrogen as well as the oxygen gas. So what is the problem with the process is that this electrolysis of water, it takes a lot of energy. In order to reduce the energy consumed, a catalyst is used. So this catalyst will facilitate this reaction with even low amount of energy. You don't need that much of wattage to carry out this reaction. But these days, what are the catalysts used? Catalysts are iridium, ruthenium. These are all noble metals, which means they are non-reactive. They have all their shells that are in their atomic structure, all are filled. They are non-reactive. That is why they are called as noble metals, and these iridium, ruthenium, etc. are used in the form of catalysts. But the problem is these are very scarce in nature and they are in demand in other sectors also, and if they are scarce, obviously they are expensive. Alright, so that is why a cheaper catalyst is needed. So the researchers have come up with a porous carbon material containing nitrogen. So this porous carbon material containing nitrogen, it has a double benefits. One, it can act as a catalyst and it could also act as a anode. Anode is the positive electrode, right? So it can also act as the anode. It is where the anions go. That is why it is called as anode. It is a positive electrode. Anions are the negative ions which go to the anode. So this porous carbon material with nitrogen, it is called as laser carbon. We will talk about this laser carbon in the next slide. Just remember that this is laser carbon and it has two benefits. One is acting as a catalyst. The other benefit is acting as the anode. So that way it will significantly bring down the cost of electrolysis. So how is this laser carbon produced? So what happens is there is a polymer called polyimide. This polyimide is exposed to laser beam. So what happens is this polyimide polymer, when it is exposed to laser beam, the exposed parts become carbonized and the rest of the parts remain rich in nitrogen. Say this is the polymer, it has some exposed parts. This exposed parts, they become carbonized, which means rich in carbon, and the remaining parts, they are rich in nitrogen. Okay. Why is this called laser carbon? It is produced because of exposure to laser, or in other words, it is carbonized because of exposure to laser, and that is why it is called as laser carbon. Laser carbon. So what happens? How does this laser carbon works? There is this oxygen evolution reaction that takes place in the electrolysis of water. Okay, so oxygen evolution reaction is the production of oxygen, simply that. So if you see in this reaction, at the anode oxygen is produced and at the cathode hydrogen is produced. So this oxygen evolution reaction, that is the production of oxygen, that is the OER process, it is very cumbersome, it is very slow. So what happens is, when we use this laser carbon as the anode, this process becomes vigorous, it becomes faster, and the process becomes cheaper thereby. So this is the overall technology. It can be asked in prelims in terms of oxygen evolution reaction is seen in the context of, and they can give you 4 options. In that way they can ask about what is laser carbon, and they can give you statement based questions. So this is how this particular news article will be converted into question. And we'll go to the final article of the day, which is about Kala Azar disease. So basically, Kala Azar, it is a vector-borne disease. So vector is the one which carries the disease. The vector, so for example in dengue, the vector is mosquito. In Kala Azar, the vector is sand fly. Okay, so in case of COVID, it is a viral disease, virus-borne disease. What about Kala Azar? Kala Azar is caused because of a protozoan. And this protozoan is of the genus Leishmania. So that is why Kala Azar is also called as Leishmaniasis. And another important fact about this particular disease is it is endemic to 4 states. What are those states? One is Bihar, Jharkhand, UP, and fourth one is West Bengal. So in India, the occurrence of this Kala Azar disease is restricted to these 4 states. That is what endemic means. Okay. Another fact about this disease is that it occurs in HIV patients. So it is essentially occurring as a comorbidity. Alright. So what happens? What is this novel compound is? See, basically, as of now, this Kala Azar disease is occurring as a comorbidity in HIV patients. So this HIV patient will be taking a lot of other drugs, and as a result, current status of Kala Azar is that it has become drug resistant. So it has become drug resistant. So this novel compound, that is a quinoline derivative. Quinoline is a naturally occurring substance. Quinoline derivative. So what happens is this quinoline, it inhibits a particular enzyme, and that enzyme is called topoisomerase 1. Topoisomerase 1. If it ends with ASE, then it is an enzyme. So what happens is that this particular compound inhibits this enzyme. So what happens is this enzyme is essential for the development or multiplication of the protozoan. Once this enzyme is inhibited, then it will lead to cytotoxicity. Cytotoxicity for this protozoan, and ultimately it dies. The beauty of this quinoline based inhibitor is that it will inhibit only this topoisomerase, and it will lead to cytotoxicity or cell death for this protozoan. It will not affect the human cells. That is the beauty of this particular inhibitor. So this is what you need to learn from this article. Kala Azar is an endemic disease and it is very serious in nature, but so far lot of questions have not come. So that is why I have covered this, which is the vector, which is the causative agent, where is it endemic to, and this can be asked in a statement based question. What does it do? That it will inhibit the human cells also, then it becomes a wrong statement. So that is how questions can be framed from this particular article. Now we will move to previous year question discussion. So here we have been given a list of seas: Adriatic Sea, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, and bordering country. See, the best trick to solve this particular question is to use elimination. But we have seen in 2022 prelims that elimination technique itself has been eliminated. So in this particular discussion, I will give you some extra information so that you will be able to better answer these questions and not just rely on elimination. So the easiest of the seas is Red Sea. So if you see the Red Sea bordering states, it's very simple. It is Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Sudan and Eritrea, Yemen. So Syria is somewhere here, right? So even Israel borders Red Sea at only this particular point. So obviously Syria will not be in the answer, right? So we can eliminate C and D. Now we are left with two options, 1, 2 and 4, 1, 3 and 4. Now the contesting thing is Black Sea and another one is Caspian Sea. Now this Black Sea is in news because of Russia-Ukraine conflict. That is why I picked this question. So how to remember the countries surrounding Black Sea? There is a mnemonic, that is Turkish burger. So the first country is Turkey. Here you can see Turkey. Then B. B stands for Bulgaria. It is here. U stands for Ukraine. Here. R stands for Russia. GE stands for Georgia, and finally R stands for Romania. So you can remember Black Sea by Turkish burger. Okay, so we have seen that only Bulgaria, Ukraine, Russia, Georgia and Romania are the bordering countries. So Croatia doesn't come, and the answer here is 1, 3 and 4 only. Alright. Moving to the next question. Consider the following: carbon monoxide, methane, ozone, sulfur dioxide. Which of the above are released into atmosphere due to burning of crop or biomass? This is organic burning. So sulfur dioxide, methane, carbon monoxide, along with that ground level ozone is also produced in the burning of biomass. So the answer is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Next, building Kalyana Mandapas was a notable feature in the temple construction in the kingdom of A. Chalukya, B. Chandela, C. Rashtrakuta, D. Vijayanagara. Kalyana Mandapa are the marriage hall that were constructed in temple. Marriage not for human being, marriage for the gods. It will take place in the Kalyana Mandapa, and this is a feature in the Vijayanagara style of temple construction. Last question. With reference to Mian Tansen, which one of the following is not correct? Tansen was the title given to him by Emperor Akbar. B. Tansen composed Drupads on Hindu gods and goddesses. C. Tansen composed songs on his patrons. D. Tansen invented many ragas. This is correct. He also composed songs on Hindu gods and goddesses. He sang songs on patrons. But this Tansen title was not given by Akbar. It was given by Raja Vikramjit of Gwalior. Alright, so answer, it's asking for not correct. So A is the answer. Thank you for watching our presentation today. Follow us on all these social media platforms. Have a good day. All the best.